Dedication and the Preface to the Reader by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Lord, my first fruits present themselves to thee. Yet not mine neither, for from thee they came, and must return. Accept of them and me, and make us strive who shall sing best thy name. Turn their eyes hither who shall make a gain, theirs who shall hurt themselves or me, refrain. The Printer to the Reader. The dedication of this work having been made by the author to the Divine Majesty only, how should we now presume to interest any mortal man in the patronage of it? Much less think we it meet to seek the recommendation of the Muses, for that which himself was confident to have been inspired by a diviner breath than flows from Helicon. The world therefore shall receive it in that naked simplicity with which he left it, without any addition either of support or ornament, more than is included in itself. We leave it free and unforestalled to every man's judgment, and to the benefit that he shall find by perusal. Only for the clearing of some passages, we have thought it not unfit to make the common reader privy to some few particularities of the condition and disposition of the person. Being nobly born, and as eminently endued with gifts of the mind, and having by industry and happy education perfected them to that great height of excellency, whereof his fellowship of Trinity College in Cambridge, and his oratorship in the University, together with that knowledge which the King's Court had taken of him, could make relation far above ordinary. Quitting both his deserts and all the opportunities that he had for worldly preferment, he betook himself to the sanctuary and temple of God, choosing rather to serve at God's altar than to seek the honour of state employments. As for those inward enforcements to this course, for outward there was none, which many of these ensuing verses bear witness of, they detract not from his freedom, but add to the honour of this resolution in him. As God had enabled him, so he accounted him meet not only to be called, but to be compelled to this service, wherein his faithful discharge was such as may make him justly a companion to the primitive saints, and a pattern or more for the age he lived in. To testify his independency upon all others, and to quicken his diligence in this kind, he used in his ordinary speech, when he made mention of the blessed name of our Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ, to add, my Master. Next God, he loved that which God himself hath magnified above all things, that is, his word. So, as he hath been heard to make solemn protestation, that he would not part with one leaf thereof for the whole world, if it were offered to him in exchange. His obedience and conformity to the Church and the discipline thereof was singularly remarkable. Though he abounded in private devotions, yet went he every morning and evening with his family to the church, and by his example, exhortations, and encouragements, drew the greater part of his parishioners to accompany him daily in the public celebration of divine service. As for worldly matters, his love and esteem to them was so little as no man can more ambitiously seek, than he did earnestly endeavour the resignation of an ecclesiastical dignity which he was possessor of. But God permitted not the accomplishment of this desire, having ordained him his instrument for re-edifying of the church belonging thereunto, that had lain ruinated almost 20 years. The reparation whereof, having been uneffectually attempted by public collections, was in the end by his own and some others' private free will offerings successfully effected. With the remembrance whereof, as of an especial good work, when a friend went about to comfort him on his deathbed, he made answer, "It is a good work if it be sprinkled with the blood of Christ." Otherwise than in this respect he could find nothing to glory or comfort himself with, neither in this nor in any other thing. And these are but few of many that might be said, which we have chosen to premise as a glance to some parts of the ensuing book, and for an example to the reader. We conclude all with his own motto, with which he used to conclude all things that might seem to tend any way to his own honour, less than the least of God's mercies. End of dedication. This recording is in the public domain. The Church Door. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Thou whose sweet youth and early hopes enhance thy rate and price, and mark thee for a treasure. Hearken unto a verser, who may chance rhyme thee to good, and make a bait of pleasure. A verse may find him who a sermon flies, and turn delight into a sacrifice. Beware of lust. It doth pollute and foul whom God in baptism washed with his own blood. It blots the lesson written in thy soul. The holy lines cannot be understood. How dare those eyes upon a Bible look, much less toward God, whose lust is all their book? Abstain wholly or wed. Thy bounteous Lord allows thee choice of paths. Take no byways, but gladly welcome what he doth afford, not grudging that thy lust hath bounds and stays. Continence hath his joy. Weigh both, and so, if rottenness have more, let heaven go. If God had laid all common, certainly man would have been the encloser. But since now God hath impaled us, on the contrary man breaks the fence, and every ground will plough. O what were man, might he himself misplace? Sure to be crossed, he would shift feet and face. Drink not the third glass, which thou canst not tame, when once it is within thee, but before mayst rule it, as thou list, and pour the shame, which it would pour on thee, upon the floor. It is most just to throw that on the ground, which would throw me there, if I keep the round. He that is drunken may his mother kill, big with his sister. He hath lost the reins, is outlawed by himself. All kind of ill did with his liquor slide into his veins. The drunkard forfeits man, and doth divest all worldly right, save what he hath by beast. Shall I, to please another's wine-sprung mind, lose all my own? God hath given me a measure short of his can and body. Must I find a pain in that wherein he finds a pleasure? Stay at the third glass. If thou lose thy hold, then thou art modest, and the wine grows bold. If reason move not, gallants, quit the room. All in a shipwreck shift their several way. Let not a common ruin thee entomb. Be not a beast in courtesy, but stay. Stay at the third cup, or forego the place. Wine above all things doth God's stamp deface. Yet if thou sin in wine or wantonness, boast not thereof, nor make thy shame thy glory. Frailty gets pardon by submissiveness, but he that boasts shuts that out of his story. He makes flat war with God, and doth defy with his poor clod of earth the spacious sky. Take not his name who made thy mouth in vain. It gets thee nothing, and hath no excuse. Lust and wine plead a pleasure, avarice gain, but the cheap swearer through his open sluice lets his soul run for naught, as little fearing. Were I an epicure, I could bate swearing. When thou dost tell another's jest, therein omit the oaths, which true wit cannot need. Pick out of tales the mirth, but not the sin. He pares his apple that will cleanly feed. Play not away the virtue of that name which is thy best stake, when griefs make thee tame. The cheapest sins most dearly punished are, because to shun them also is so cheap. For we have wit to mark them, and to spare. O crumble not away thy soul's fair heap. If thou wilt die, the gates of hell are broad. Pride and full sins have made the way a road. Lie not, but let thy heart be true to God, thy mouth to it, thy actions to them both. Cowards tell lies, and those that fear the rod. The stormy working soul spits lies and froth. Dare to be true. Nothing can need a lie. A fault which needs it most grows two thereby. Fly idleness, which yet thou canst not fly by dressing, mistressing, and compliment. If those take up thy day, the sun will cry against thee, for his light was only lent. God gave thy soul brave wings. Put not those feathers into a bed, to sleep out all ill weathers. Art thou a magistrate? Then be severe. If studious, copy fair, what time hath blurred. Redeem truth from the jaws. If soldier, chase brave employments with a naked sword throughout the world. Fool not, for all may have, if they dare try, a glorious life or grave. O England, full of sin, but most of sloth, spit out thy phlegm, and fill thy breast with glory. Thy gentry bleats, as if thy native cloth transfused a sheepishness into thy story. Not that they are also, but that the most are gone to grass, and in the pasture lost. This loss springs chiefly from our education. Some till their ground, but let weeds choke their sun. Some mark a partridge, never their child's fashion. Some ship them over, and the thing is done. Study this art, make it thy great design, and if God's image move not thee, let thine. Some great estates provide, but do not breed a mastering mind, so both are lost thereby. Or else they breed them tender, make them need all that they leave. This is flat poverty. For he that needs £5,000 to live is full as poor as he that needs but 5. The way to make thy son rich is to fill his mind with rest, before his trunk with riches. For wealth without contentment climbs a hill to feel those tempests which fly over ditches. But if thy son can make £10 his measure, then all thou addest may be called his treasure. When thou dost purpose aught within thy power, be sure to do it, though it be but small. Constancy knits the bones, and makes us stour, when wanton pleasures beckon us to thrall. Who breaks his own bond forfeiteth himself. What nature made a ship, he makes a shelf. Do all things like a man, not sleekingly. Think the king sees thee still, for his king does. Simpering is but a lay hypocrisy. Give it a corner, and the clue undoes. Who fears to do ill sets himself to task. Who fears to do well sure should wear a mask. Look to thy mouth. Diseases enter there. Thou hast 2 sconces if thy stomach call. Carve or discourse. Do not a famine fear. Who carves is kind to 2. Who talks to all. Look on meat, think it dirt, then eat a bit, and say withal, earth to earth I commit. Slight those who say amidst their sickly healths, thou liv'st by rule. What does not so but man? Houses are built by rule, and commonwealths. Entice the trusty sun, if that thou can, from his ecliptic line, beckon the sky. Who lives by rule, then, keeps good company. Who keeps no guard upon himself is slack, and rots to nothing at the next great thaw. Man is a shop of rules, a well-trussed pack, whose every parcel underwrites a law. Lose not thyself, nor give thy humours way. God gave them to thee under lock and key. By all means use sometimes to be alone. Salute thyself, see what thy soul doth wear. Dare to look in thy chest, for 'tis thine own, and tumble up and down what thou findest there. Who cannot rest till he good fellows find, he breaks up house, turns out of doors his mind. Be thrifty but not covetous, therefore give thy need thine honour and thy friend his due. Never was scraper brave man. Get to live, then live and use it, else it is not true that thou hast gotten. Surely use alone makes money not a contemptible stone. Never exceed thy income. Youth may make even with the year, but age, if it will hit, shoots a bow short, and lessens still his stake, as the day lessens, and his life with it. Thy children, kindred, friends upon thee call. Before thy journey fairly part with all. Yet in thy thriving still misdoubt some evil, lest gaining gain on thee, and make thee dim to all things else. Wealth is the conjurer's devil, whom when he thinks he hath, the devil hath him. Gold thou mayest touch, but if it stick unto thy hands, it woundeth to the quick. What skills it if a bag of stones or gold about thy neck do drown thee? Raise thy head, take stars for money. Stars not to be told by any art, yet to be purchased. None is so wasteful as the scraping dame. She loseth 3 for 1, her soul, rest, fame. By no means run in debt. Take thine own measure. Who cannot live on £20 a year cannot on 40. He's a man of pleasure, a kind of thing that's for itself too dear. The curious unthrift makes his clothes too wide, and spares himself, but would his tailor chide. Spend not on hopes. They that by pleading clothes do fortune seek, when worth and service fail, would have their tale believed for their oaths, and are like empty vessels under sail. Old courtiers know this, therefore set out so, as all the day thou mayest hold out to go. In clothes, cheap handsomeness doth bear the bell. Wisdom's a trimmer thing than the shop e'er gave. Say not then, this with that lace will do well, but this with my discretion will be brave. Much curiousness is a perpetual wooing, nothing with labour, folly long a-doing. Play not for gain, but sport. Who plays for more than he can lose with pleasure stakes his heart, perhaps his wives too, and whom she hath bore. Servants and churches also play their part. Only a herald who that way doth pass finds his cracked name at length in the church glass. If yet thou love game at so dear a rate, learn this, that hath old gamesters dearly cost. Dost lose? Rise up. Dost win? Rise in that state. Who strive to sit out losing hands are lost. Game is a civil gunpowder, in peace blowing up houses with their whole increase. In conversation boldness now bears sway, but know that nothing can so foolish be as empty boldness. Therefore, first, essay to suff thy mind with solid bravery, then march on gallant, get substantial worth. Boldness gilds finely, and will set it forth. Be sweet to all. Is thy complexion sour? Then keep such company. Make them thy ally. Get a sharp wife, a servant that will lour. A stumbler stumbles least in rugged way. Command thyself in chief. He lives war knows, whom all his passion follow as he goes. Catch not at quarrels. He that dares not speak plainly and home is coward of the two. Think not thy fame at every twitch will break. By great deeds show that thou canst little do, and do them not. That shall thy wisdom be, and change thy temperance into bravery. If that thy fame with every toy be posed, 'tis a thin web, which poisonous fancies make. But the great soldier's honour was composed of thicker stuff, which would endure a shake. Wisdom picks friends, civility plays the rest. A toy shunned cleanly passeth with the best. Laugh not too much. The witty man laughs least, for wit is news only to ignorance. Less in thine own things laugh, least in the jest thy person share, and the conceit advance. Make not thy sport abuses, for the fly that feeds on dung is coloured thereby. Pick out of mirth, like stones out of thy ground, profaneness, filthiness, abusiveness. These are the scum with which coarse wits abound. The fine may spare these well, yet go not less. All things are big with jest. Nothing that's plain but may be witty if thou hast the vein. Wit's an unruly engine, wildly striking sometimes a friend, sometimes the engineer. Hast thou the knack? Pamper it not with liking. But if thou want it, buy it not too dear. Many, affecting wit beyond their power, have got to be a dear fool for an hour. A sad, wise valour is the brave complexion that leads the van, and swallows up the cities. The giggler is a milkmaid, whose infection, or a fired beacon, frighteth from his ditties. Then he's the sport. The mirth then in him rests, and the sad man is the cock of all his jests. Towards great persons use respective boldness. That temper gives them theirs, and yet doth take nothing from thine. In service, care, or coldness doth rateably thy fortunes mar or make. Feed no man in his sins, for adulation doth make thee parcel devil in damnation. Envy not greatness, for thou makest thereby thyself the worse, and so the distance greater. Be not thine own worm, yet such jealousy as hurts not others, but may make thee better, is a good spur. Correct thy passion's spite, then may the beasts draw thee to happy light. When baseness is exalted, do not bate the place its honour, for the person's sake. The shrine is that which thou dost venerate, and not the beast, that bears it on his back. I care not though the cloth of state should be not of rich arras, but of mean tapestry. Thy friend put in thy bosom, wear his eyes still in thy heart, that he may see what's there. If cause require, thou art his sacrifice, thy drops of blood must pay down all his fear. But love is lost, the way of friendship's gone, though David had his Jonathan, Christ his John. Yet be not surety if thou be a father. Love is a personal debt. I cannot give my children's right, nor ought he take it. Rather, both friends should die than hinder them to live. Fathers first enter bonds to nature's ends, and are her sureties ere they are a friend's. If thou be single, all thy goods and ground submit to love, but yet not more than all. Give one estate as one life. None is bound to work for two who brought himself to thrall. God made me one man, love makes me no more, till labour come, and make my weakness score. In thy discourse, if thou desire to please, all such is courteous, useful, new, or witty. Usefulness comes by labour, wit by ease. Courtesy grows in court, news in the city. Get a good stock of these, then draw the card that suits him best, of whom thy speech is heard. Entice all neatly to what they know best, for so thou dost thyself and him a pleasure. But a proud ignorance will lose his rest rather than show his cards. Steal from his treasure what to ask further. Doubts, well raised, do lock the speaker to thee, and preserve thy stock. If thou be master gunner, spend not all that thou canst speak at once, but husband it, and give men turns of speech. Do not forestall by lavishness thine own and others' wit, as if thou madest thy will. A civil guest will no more talk all than eat all the feast. Be calm in arguing, for fierceness makes error a fault, and truth discourtesy. Why should I feel another man's mistakes more than his sicknesses or poverty? In love I should, but anger is not love, nor wisdom neither. Therefore gently move. Calmness is a great advantage. He that lets another chafe may warm him at his fire, mark all his wanderings, and enjoy his frets, as cunning fencers suffer heat to tire. Truth dwells not in the clouds. The bow that's there doth often aim at, never hit the sphere. Mark what another says, for many are full of themselves, and answer their own notion. Take all into thee, then, with equal care, balance each dram of reason, like a potion. If truth be with thy friend, be with them both. Share in the conquest, and confess a troth. Be useful where thou livest, that they may both want and wish thy pleasing presence still. Kindness, good parts, great places are the way to compass this. Find out men's wants and will, and meet them there. All worldly joys go less to the one joy of doing kindness. Pitch thy behaviour low, thy projects high. So shalt thou humble and magnanimous be. Sink not in spirit. Who aimeth at the sky shoots higher much than he that means a tree. A grain of glory mixed with humbleness cures both of fever and lethargicness. Let thy mind still be bent, still plotting where and when and how the business may be done. Slackness breeds worms, but the sure traveller, though he alight sometimes, still goeth on. Active and stirring spirits live alone. Right on the others, here lies such a one. Slight not the smallest loss, whether it be in love or honour. Take account of all. Shine like the sun in every corner. See whether thy stock of credit swell or fall. Who says, I care not, those I give for lost, and to instruct them will not quit the cost. Scorn no man's love, though of a mean degree. Love is a present for a mighty king. Much less make any one thy enemy. As guns destroy, so may a little sling. The cunning workman never doth refuse the meanest tool, that he may chance to use. All foreign wisdom doth amount to this, to take all that is given, whether wealth, or love, or language. Nothing comes amiss. A good digestion turneth all to health, and then, as far as fair behaviour may, strike off all scores. None are so clear as they. Keep all thy native good, and naturalize all foreign of that name, but scorn their ill, embrace their activeness, not vanities. Who follows all things forfeiteth his will. If thou observest strangers in each fit, in time they'll run thee out of all thy wit. Affect in things about thee cleanliness, that all may gladly board thee as a flower. Slovens take up their stock of noisomeness beforehand, and anticipate their last hour. Let thy mind's sweetness have his operation upon thy body, clothes, and habitation. In alms regard thy means and others' merit. Think heaven a better bargain than to give only thy single market money for it. Join hands with God to make a man to live. Give to all something, to a good poor man, till thou change names, and be where he began. Man is God's image, but a poor man is Christ's stamp to boot. Both images regard. God reckons for him, counts the favour his. Right, so much given to God. Thou shalt be heard. Let thy alms go before, and keep heaven's gate open for thee, or both may come too late. Restore to God his due in tithe and time. A tithe purloined cankers the whole estate. Sundays observe. Think when the bells do chime, 'tis angels' music. Therefore come not late. God then deals blessings. If a king did so, who would not haste, nay give, to see the show? Twice on the day his due is understood. For all the week thy food so oft he gave thee, thy cheer is mended. Bate not of the food, because 'tis better, and perhaps may save thee. Thwart not the mighty God. O be not cross. Fast when thou wilt, but then 'tis gain, not loss. Though private prayer be brave design, yet public hath more promises, more love, and love's a weight to hearts, to eyes a sign. We are all but cold suitors. Let us move where it is warmest. Leave thy 6 and 7. Pray with the most, for where most pray is heaven. When once thou foot enters the church, be bare. God is more there than thou, for thou art there only by his permission. Then beware, and make thyself all reverence and fear. Kneeling, ne'er spoiled silk stocking. Quit thy state. All equal are within the church's gate. Resort to sermons, but to prayers most. Praying's the end of preaching. O be dressed, stay not for the other pin. Why, thou hast lost a joy for it worth worlds. Thus hell doth jest away thy blessings, and extremely flout thee, thy clothes being fast, but thy soul loose about thee. In time of service, seal up both thine eyes, and send them to thy heart, that, spying sin, they may weep out the stains by them did rise, those doors being shut, all by the ear comes in. Who marks in church time others' symmetry, makes all their beauty his deformity. Let vain or busy thoughts have there no part. Bring not thy plough, thy plots, thy pleasures thither. Christ purged his temple, so must thou thy heart. All worldly thoughts are but thieves met together to cozen thee. Look to thy actions well, for churches are either our heaven or our hell. Judge not the preacher, for he is thy judge. If thou mislike him, thou conceivest him not. God calleth preaching folly. Do not grudge to pick out treasures from an earthen pot. The worst speaks something good. If all want sense, God takes a text and preacheth patience. He that gets patience, and the blessing which preachers conclude with, hath not lost his pains. He that by being at church escapes the ditch, which he might fall in by companions, gains. He that loves God's abode, and to combine with saints on earth, shall one day with them shine. Jest not at preacher's language or expression. How knowest thou but thy sins made him miscarry? Then turn thy faults and his into confession. God sent him, whatsoe'er he be. O tarry, and love him for his master. His condition, though it be ill, makes him no ill physician. None shall in hell such bitter pangs endure as those who mock at God's way of salvation. Whom oil and balsams kill, what salve can cure? They drink with greediness of full damnation. The Jews refused thunder, and we folly. Though God do hedge us in, yet who is holy? Sum up all at night, what thou hast done by day, and in the morning what thou hast to do. Dress and undress thy soul. Mark the decay and growth of it. If with thy watch that too be down, then wind up both. Since we shall be most surely judged, make thy accounts agree. In brief, acquit thee bravely. Play man. Look not on pleasures as they come, but go. Defer not the least virtue. Life's poor span make not an ell by trifling in thy woe. If thou do ill, the joy fades, not the pains. If well, the pain doth fade, the joy remains. End of The Church Door. This recording is in the public domain. Superliminare by George Herbert. Recorded for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Thou, whom the former precepts have sprinkled and taught how to behave thyself in church, approach, and taste the church's mystical repast. Avoid profaneness, come not here. Nothing but holy, pure, and clear, or that which groaneth to be so, may at his peril further go. End of Superliminare. This recording is in the public domain. The Altar by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. A broken altar, Lord, thy servant rears, made of a heart, and cemented with tears, whose parts are as thy hand did frame. No workman's tool hath touched the same. A heart alone is such a stone as nothing but thy power doth cut. Wherefore each part of my hard heart meets in this frame, to praise thy name. That if I chance to hold my peace, these stones to praise thee may not cease. O let thy blessed sacrifice be mine, and sanctify this altar to be thine. End of the Altar. This recording is in the public domain. The Sacrifice, read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. O all ye who pass by, whose eyes and mind to worldly things are sharp, but to me blind, to me, who took eyes that I might you find, was ever grief like mine? The princes of my people make a head against their Maker. They do wish me dead, who cannot wish except I give them bread. Was ever grief like mine? Without me, each one who doth now me brave had to this day been an Egyptian slave. They use that power against me which I gave. Was ever grief like mine? Mine own apostle, who the bag did bear, though he had all I had, did not forbear to sell me also, and to put me there. Was ever grief like mine? For 30 pence he did my death devise, who at 300 did the ointment prize, not half so sweet as my sweet sacrifice. Was ever grief like mine? Therefore my soul melts, and my heart's dear treasure drops blood, the only beads my words to measure. O let this cup pass, if it be thy pleasure. Was ever grief like mine? These drops, being tempered with sinners' tears, a balsam are for both the hemispheres, curing all wounds but mine, all but my fears. Was ever grief like mine? Yet my disciples sleep. I cannot gain 1 hour of watching, but their drowsy brain comforts not me, and doth my doctrine stain. Was ever grief like mine? Arise, arise, they come! Look how they run! Alas, what haste they make to be undone! How with their lanterns they do seek the sun! Was ever grief like mine? With clubs and staves they seek me, as a thief, who am the way and truth, the true relief, most true to those who are my greatest grief. Was ever grief like mine? Judas, dost thou betray me with a kiss? Canst thou find hell about my lips, and miss of life just at the gates of life and bliss? Was ever grief like mine? See, they lay hold on me, not with the hands of faith, but fury, yet at their commands I suffer binding, who have loosed their bands. Was ever grief like mine? All my disciples fly. Fear puts a bar betwixt my friends and me. They leave the star that brought the wise men of the East from far. Was ever grief like mine? They from one ruler to another bound they lead me, urging that it was not sound what I taught, comments would the test confound. Was ever grief like mine? The priests and rulers all false witnesses seek, 'gainst him who seeks not life, but is the meek and ready paschal lamb of this great week. Was ever grief like mine? Then they accuse me of great blasphemy, that I did thrust into the deity, who never thought that any robbery. Was ever grief like mine? Some said that I the temple to the floor in 3 days raised, and raised as before. Why, he that built the world can do much more. Was ever grief like mine? Then they condemn me, all with that same breath which I do give them daily, unto death. Thus Adam my first breathing rendereth. Was ever grief like mine? They bind, and lead me unto Herod, he sends me to Pilate. This makes them agree, but yet their friendship is my enmity. Was ever grief like mine? Herod and all his bands do set me light, who teach all hands to war, fingers to fight, and only am the Lord of hosts and might. Was ever grief like mine? Herod in judgment sits, while I do stand, examines me with a censorious hand. I him obey, who all things else command. Was ever grief like mine? The Jews accuse me with despitefulness, and vying malice with my gentleness, pick quarrels with their only happiness. Was ever grief like mine? I answer nothing, but with patience prove, if stony hearts will melt with gentle love. But who does hawk at eagles with a dove? Was ever grief like mine? My silence rather doth augment their cry, my dove doth back into my bosom fly, because the raging waters are still high. Was ever grief like mine? Hark, how they cry aloud still, Crucify! It is not fit that he live a day, they cry, who cannot live less than eternally. Was ever grief like mine? Pilate, a stranger, holdeth off, but they, mine own dear people, cry, Away, away, with noise confused, frighting the day. Was ever grief like mine? Yet still they shout, and cry, and stop their ears, putting my life among their sins and fears, and therefore wish my blood on them and theirs. Was ever grief like mine? See how spite cankers things. These words aright used and wished are the whole world's light, but honey is their gall, brightness their night. Was ever grief like mine? They choose a murderer, and all agree in him to do themselves a courtesy, for it was their own case who killed me. Was ever grief like mine? And seditious murderer he was, but I, the Prince of Peace, peace that doth pass all understanding, more than heaven doth glass, was ever grief like mine? Why, Caesar is their only king, not I. He clave the stony rock when they were dry, but certainly not their hearts, as I well try. Was ever grief like mine? Ah, how they scourge me! Yet my tenderness doubles each lash, and yet their bitterness winds up my grief to a mysteriousness. Was ever grief like mine? They buffet him, and box him as they list, who grasps the earth and heaven with his fist, and never yet whom he would punish missed. Was ever grief like mine? Behold, they spit on me in scornful wise, who by my spittle gave the blind man eyes, leaving his blindness to my enemies. Was ever grief like mine? My face they cover, though it be divine, as Moses' face was veiled, so is mine, lest on their double dark souls either shine. Was ever grief like mine? Servants and abjects flout me. They are witty. Now prophesy who strikes thee as their ditty. So they, in me, deny themselves all pity. Was ever grief like mine? And now I am delivered unto death, which each one calls for so with utmost breath, that he before me well nigh suffereth. Was ever grief like mine? Weep not, dear friends, since I for both have wept, when all my tears were blood, the while you slept, your tears for your own fortunes should be kept. Was ever grief like mine? The soldiers lead me to the common hall. There they deride me, they abuse me all, yet for 12 heavenly legions could I call. Was ever grief like mine? Then with a scarlet robe they me array, which shows my blood to be the only way, and cordial, left to repair man's decay. Was ever grief like mine? Then on my head a crown of thorns I wear, for these are all the grapes Sion doth bear, though I my vine planted and watered there. Was ever grief like mine? So sits the earth's great curse in Adam's fall upon my head. So I remove it all from the earth unto my brows, and bear the thrall. Was ever grief like mine? Then with the reed they gave to me before, they strike my head. The rock, from thence all store of heavenly blessings issue evermore. Was ever grief like mine? They bow their knees to me, and cry, Hail, King! Whoever scoffs and scornfulness can bring, I am the floor, the sink, where they it fling. Was ever grief like mine? Yet since man's sceptres are as frail as reeds, and thorny all their crowns, bloody their weeds, I, who am truth, turn into truth their deeds. Was ever grief like mine? The soldiers also spit upon that face, which angels did desire to have the grace, and prophets once to see, but found no place. Was ever grief like mine? Thus trimmed, forth they bring me to the rout, who crucify him, cry with one strong shout, God holds his peace at man, and man cries out. Was ever grief like mine? They lead me in once more, and putting then mine own clothes on, they lead me out again. Whom devils fly, thus is he tossed of men. Was ever grief like mine? And now, weary of sport, glad to engross all spite in one, counting my life their loss, they carry me to my most bitter cross. Was ever grief like mine? Oh, all ye who pass by, behold and see, man stole the fruit,
but I must climb the tree of life to all, but only me, was ever grief like mine. Lo, here I hang, charged with a world of sin, the greater world of the two. For that came in by words, but this by sorrow I must win. Was ever grief like mine? Such sorrow as, if sinful man could feel, or feel his part, he would not cease to kneel, till all were melted, though he were all steel, was ever grief like mine. But O my God, why leavest thou me, the Son, in whom thou dost delight to be? My God, never was grief like mine. Shame tears my soul, my body many a wound. Sharp nails pierce this, but sharper that confound. Reproaches, which are free, while I am bound. Was ever grief like mine? Now heal thyself, physician, now come down. Alas, I did so, when I left my crown and father's smile for you, to feel his frown. Was ever grief like mine? In healing not myself, there doth consist all that salvation which ye now resist. Your safety in my sickness doth subsist. Was ever grief like mine? Betwixt two thieves I spend my utmost breath, as he that for some robbery suffereth. Alas, what have I stolen from you? Death. Was ever grief like mine? A king my title is, prefixed on high, yet by my subjects am condemned to die. A servile death in servile company. Was ever grief like mine? They give me vinegar mixed with gall, but more with malice. Yet when they did call with manna, angels' food, I fed them all. Was ever grief like mine? They part my garments, and by lot dispose my coat, the type of love, which cured those who sought for help, never malicious foes. Was ever grief like mine? Nay, after death their spite shall further go, for they will pierce my side. I shall full well know that as sin came, so sacraments might flow. Was ever grief like mine? But now I die, now all is finished. My woe, man's weal, and now I bow my head. Only let others say, when I am dead, never was grief like mine. End of The Sacrifice. This recording is in the public domain.
The Thanksgiving by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. O King of Grief, a title strange, yet true, to thee of all kings only due. O King of Wounds, how shall I grieve for thee, who in all grief preventest me? Shall I weep blood? Why, thou hast wept such store, that all thy body was one door. Shall I be scourged, flouted, boxed, sold? 'Tis but to tell, the tale is told. My God, why dost thou part from me? Was such a grief as cannot be. Shall I then sing, skipping thy doleful story, and side with thy triumphant glory? Shall thy strokes be my stroking, thorns my flower, thy rod my posy, cross my bower? But how then shall I imitate thee, and copy thy fair though bloody hand? Surely I will revenge me on thy love, and try who shall victorious prove. If thou dost give me wealth, I will restore all back unto thee by the poor. If thou dost give me honour, men shall see the honour doth belong to thee. I will not marry, or if she be mine, she and her children shall be thine. My bosom friend, if he blaspheme thy name, I will tear thence his love and fame. One half of me being gone, the rest I give unto some chapel, die or live. As for thy passion, but of that anon, when with the other I have done. For thy predestination I'll contrive, that 3 years hence, if I survive, I'll build a spittle, or mend common ways, but mend mine own without delays. Then will I use the works of thy creation, as if I used them but for fashion. The world and I will quarrel, and the year shall not perceive that I am here. My music shall find thee, and every string shall have his attribute to sing, that all together may accord in thee, and prove one God, one harmony. If thou shalt give me wit, it shall appear. If thou hast given it me, 'tis here. Nay, I will read thy book, and never move till I have found therein thy love, thy art of love, which I'll turn back on thee, O my dear Saviour, victory. Then for thy passion, I will do for that, alas, my God, I know not what. End of the Thanksgiving. This recording is in the public domain. The Reprisal by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. I have considered it, and find there is no dealing with thy mighty passion. For though I die for thee I am behind, my sins deserve the condemnation. O make me innocent, that I may give a disentangled state and free, and yet thy wounds still my attempts defy, for by thy death I die for thee. Ah, was it not enough that thou, by thy eternal glory, didst outgo me? Couldst thou not grief's sad conquests me allow, but in all victories overthrow me? Yet by confession will I come into the conquest. Though I can do naught against thee, in thee I will overcome the man who once against thee fought. End of the Reprisal. This recording is in the public domain. The Agony by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Philosophers have measured mountains, fathomed the depths of seas, of states and kings, walked with a staff to heaven, and traced fountains. But there are two vast, spacious things, the which to measure it doth more behove, yet few there are that sound them: sin and love. Who would know sin, let him repair unto Mount Olivet. There shall he see a man so wrung with pains, that all his hair, his skin, his garments bloody be. Sin is that press and vice which forceth pain to hunt his cruel food through every vein. Who knows not love, let him assay and taste that juice, which on the cross a pike did set again abroach. Then let him say, if ever he did taste the like, love in that liquor sweet and most divine, which my God feels as blood, but I as wine. End of the Agony. This recording is in the public domain. The Sinner by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Lord, how I am all ague when I seek what I have treasured in my memory. Since if my soul make even with the weak, each seventh note, by right, is due to thee. I find there quarries of piled vanities, but shreds of holiness, that dare not venture to show their face, since crossed to thy decrees. There the circumference earth is, heaven the centre. In so much dregs the quintessence is small, the spirit and good extract of my heart comes to about the many hundred part. Yet, Lord, restore thine image, hear my call, and though my hard heart scarce to thee can groan, remember that thou once didst write on stone. End of The Sinner. This recording is in the public domain. Good Friday by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. O my chief good, how shall I measure out thy blood? How shall I count what thee befell, and each grief tell? Shall I thy woes number according to thy foes? Or since one star showed thy first breath, shall all thy death? Or shall each leaf which falls in autumn score a grief? Or cannot leaves but fruit be sign of the true vine? Then let each hour of my whole life one grief devour, that thy distress through all may run, and be my son. Or rather let my several sins their sorrows get, that as each beast his cure doth know, each sin may sow. Since blood is fittest, Lord, to write thy sorrows in, and bloody fight, my heart hath store, right there, wherein one box doth lie both ink and sin, that when sin spies so many foes, thy whips, thy nails, thy wounds, thy woes, all come to lodge there, sin may say, no room for me, and fly away. Sin being gone, O fill the place, and keep possession with thy grace, lest sin take courage and return, and all the writings blot or burn. End of Good Friday. This recording is in the public domain. Redemption by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Having been tenant long to a rich lord, not thriving, I resolved to be bold, and make a suit unto him, to afford a new small rented lease, and cancel the old. In heaven at his manor I him sought. They told me there that he was lately gone about some land which he had dearly bought long since on earth, to take possession. I straight returned, and knowing his great birth, sought him accordingly in great resorts, in cities, theatres, gardens, parks, and courts. At length I heard a ragged noise and mirth of thieves and murderers. There I him espied, who straight, your suit is granted, said, and died. End of Redemption. This recording is in the public domain. Sepulchre by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. O blessed body, whither art thou thrown? No lodging for thee, but a cold hard stone. So many hearts on earth, and yet not one receive thee. Sure there is room within our hearts' good store, for they can lodge transgressions by the score. Thousands of toys dwell there, yet out of door they leave thee. But that which shows them large shows them unfit. Whatever sin did this pure rock commit, which holds thee now? Who hath indicted it of murder? Where our hard hearts have took up stones to brain thee, and missing this, most falsely did arraign thee, onely these stones in quiet entertain thee, and order. And as of old the law by heavenly art was written stone, so thou, which also art the letter of the word, findest no fit heart to hold thee. Yet do we still persist as we began, and so should perish, but that nothing can, though it be cold, hard, foul, from loving man withhold thee. End of Sepulchre. This recording is in the public domain. Easter by George Herbert. Recorded for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Rise, heart, thy Lord is risen. Sing his praise without delays, who takes thee by the hand, that thou likewise with him mayest rise, that as his death calcined thee to dust, his life may make thee gold, and much more, just. Awake, my lute, and struggle for thy part with all thy art. The cross taught all wood to resound his name, who bore the same. His stretched sinews taught all strings what key is best to celebrate this most high day. Consort both heart and lute, and twist a song pleasant and long. Or, since all music is but three parts, vied and multiplied, O let thy blessed spirit bear a part, and make up our defects with his sweet art. I got me flowers to straw thy way, I got me boughs off many a tree, but thou wast up by break of day, and brought'st thy sweets along with thee. The sun arising in the east, though he give light, and the east perfume, if they should offer to contest with thy arising, they presume. Can there be any day but this, though many suns to shine endeavour? We count 300, but we miss, there is but one, and that one ever. End of Easter. This recording is in the public domain. Easter Wings by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Lord, who createst man in wealth and store, though foolishly he lost the same, decaying more and more, till he became most poor, with thee, O let me rise, as larks, harmoniously, and sing this day thy victories, then shall the fall further the flight in me. My tender age in sorrow did begin, and still with sicknesses and shame thou didst so punish sin that I became most thine. With thee let me combine, and feel this day thy victory, for if I imp my wing on thine, affliction shall advance the flight in me. End of Easter Wings. This recording is in the public domain. Holy Baptism, Version 1, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. As he that sees a dark and shady grove stays not, but looks beyond it on the sky, so, when I view my sins, mine eyes remove more backward still, and to that water fly which is above the heavens, whose spring and vent is in my dear Redeemer's pierced side. O blessed streams, either ye do prevent and stop our sins from growing thick and wide, or else give tears to drown them as they grow. In you redemption measures all my time, and spreads the plaster equal to the crime. You taught the book of life my name, that so whatever future sins should me miscall, your first acquaintance might discredit all. End of Holy Baptism 1. This recording is in the public domain. Holy Baptism, Version 2, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Since, Lord, to thee a narrow way and little gate is all the passage, on my infancy thou didst lay hold, and antedate my faith in me. O let me still write thee, great God, and me a child. Let me be soft and supple to thy will, small to myself, to others mild, be hither ill. Although by stealth my flesh got on, yet let her sister my soul bid nothing, but preserve her wealth. The growth of flesh is but a blister, childhood is health. End of Holy Baptism, Version 2. This recording is in the public domain. Nature, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Full of rebellion, I would die, or fight, or travel, or deny that thou hast aught to do with me. O tame my heart. It is thy highest art to captivate strong holds to thee. If thou shalt let this venom lurk, and in suggestions fume and work, my soul will turn to bubbles straight, and thence by kind vanish into a wind, making thy workmanship deceit. O smooth my rugged heart, and there engrave thy reverend law and fear, or make a new one, since the old is sapless grown, and a much fitter stone to hide my dust than thee to hold. End of Nature. This recording is in the public domain. Sin, Version 1, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Lord, with what care hast thou begirt us round! Parents first season us, then schoolmasters deliver us to laws. They send us bound to rules of reason, holy messengers, pulpits and Sundays, sorrow dogging sin, afflictions sorted, anguish of all sizes, fine nets and stratagems to catch us in, Bibles laid open, millions of surprises, blessings beforehand, ties of gratefulness, the sound of glory ringing in our ears. Without, our shame. Within, our consciences, angels and grace, eternal hopes and fears. Yet all these fences and their whole array, one cunning bosom sin blows quite away. End of Sin, Version 1. This recording is in the public domain. The Temple, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Affliction, Part 1. When first thou didst entice to thee my heart, I thought the service brave. So many joys I writ down for my part, besides what I might have out of my stock of natural delights, augmented with thy gracious benefits.
I looked on thy furniture so fine, and made it fine to me. Thy glorious household stuff did me entwine, entice me unto thee. Such stars I counted mine. Both heaven and earth paid me my wages in a world of mirth. What pleasures could I want, whose king I served, where joys my fellows were? Thus argued into hopes, my thoughts reserved no place for grief or fear. Therefore my sudden soul caught at the place, and made her youth and fierceness seek thy face. At first thou gavest me milk and sweetnesses. I had my wish and way. My days were strawed with flowers and happiness. There was no month but May. But with my years sorrow did twist and grow, and made a party unawares of woe. My flesh began unto my soul in pain. Sicknesses cleave my bones. Consuming agues dwell in every vein, and tune my breath to groans. Sorrow was all my soul. I scarce believed, till grief did tell me roundly that I lived. When I got health, thou took'st away my life, and more, for my friends die. My mirth and edge was lost. A blunted knife was of more use than I. Thus, thin and lean, without a fence or friend, I was blown through with every storm and wind. Whereas my breath and spirit rather took the way that takes the town. Thou didst betray me to a lingering book, and wrap me in a gown. I was entangled in the world of strife, before I had the power to change my life. Yet, for I threatened oft the siege to raise, not simpering all mine age, thou often didst, with academic praise, melt and dissolve my rage. I took thy sweetened pill, till I came where I could not go away, nor persevere. Yet, lest perchance I should too happy be in my unhappiness, turning my purge to food, thou throwest me into more sicknesses. Thus doth my power cross-bias me, not making thine own gift good, yet me from my ways taking. Now I am here. What thou wilt do with me, none of my books will show. I read, and sigh, and wish I were a tree, for sure then I should grow to fruit or shade, and at least some bird would trust her household to me, and I should be just. Yet though thou troublest me, I must be meek, in weakness must be stout. Ah, dear my God, though I am clean forgot, let me not love thee, if I love thee not. End of Affliction, Part 1. This recording is in the public domain. The Temple, by George Herbert, read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Repentance. Lord, I confess my sin is great. Great is my sin. O gently treat with thy quick flower thy momentary bloom, whose life still pressing is one undressing, a steady aiming at a tomb. Man's age is 2 hours' work or 3, each day doth round about us see. Thus are we to delights, but we are all to sorrows old, if like be told, from what life feeleth, Adam's fall. O let thy height of mercy, then, compassionate, short-breathed men, cut me not off from my most foul transgression. I do confess my foolishness. My God, accept of my confession. Sweeten at length this bitter bowl, which thou hast poured into my soul. Thy wormwood turn to health, winds to fair weather. For if thou stay, I and this day, as we did rise, we die together. When thou for sin rebukest man, forthwith he waxeth woe and wan. Bitterness fills our bowels. All our hearts pine and decay, and drop away, and carry with them the other parts. But thou wilt sin and grief destroy, that so the broken bones may joy, and tune together in a well-set song full of his praises, who dead men raises. Fractures well cured make us more strong. End of Repentance. This recording is in the public domain. Faith, by George Herbert, read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Lord, how couldst thou so much appease thy wrath for sin, as, when man's sight was dim, and could see little, to regard his ease, and bring by faith all things to him? Hungry I was, and had no meat. I did conceit a most delicious feast. I had it straight, and did as truly eat, as ever did a welcome guest. There is a rare outlandish root, which, when I could not get, I thought it here. That apprehension cured so well my foot, that I can walk to heaven well near. I owed thousands and much more. I did believe that I did nothing owe, and lived accordingly. My creditor believes so too, and lets me go. Faith makes me anything, or all that I believe is in the sacred story. And where sin placeth me in Adam's fall, faith sets me higher in his glory. If I go lower in the book, what can be lower than the common manger? Faith puts me there with him, who sweetly took our flesh and frailty, death and danger. If bliss had lain in art or strength, none but the wise or strong had gained it, where now by faith all arms are of a length, one size doth all conditions fit. A peasant may believe as much as a great clerk, and reach the highest stature. Thus dost thou make proud knowledge bend and crouch, while grace fills up uneven nature. When creatures had no real light inherent in them, thou didst make the sun impute a lustre, and allow them bright, and in this show what Christ hath done. That which before was dark and clean with bushy groves, pricking the looker's eye, vanished away, when faith did change the scene, and then appeared a glorious sky. What though my body run to dust? Faith cleaves unto it, counting every grain with an exact and most particular trust, reserving all for flesh again. End of Faith. This recording is in the public domain.
Prayer, Version 1, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Prayer the church banquet, angels' age, God's breath in man returning to his birth, the soul in paraphrase, heart in pilgrimage, the Christian plummet sounding heaven and earth. Engine against the Almighty, sinner's tower, reversed thunder, Christ's side-piercing spear, the 6 days' world transposing in an hour. A kind of tune which all things hear and fear. Softness and peace and joy and love and bliss, exalted manna, gladness of the best, heaven in ordinary, man well dressed, the Milky Way, the bird of paradise, church bells beyond the stars heard, the soul's blood, the land of spices, something understood. End of Prayer, Version 1. This recording is in the public domain.
The Holy Communion. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Not in rich furniture, or fine array, nor in a wedge of gold, thou, who for me wast sold, to me dost now thyself convey. For so thou shouldst without me still have been, leaving within me sin. But by the way of nourishment and strength thou creepest into my breast, making thy way my rest, and thy small quantities my length, which spread their forces into every part, meeting sin's force and art. Yet can these not get over to my soul, leaping the wall that parts our souls and fleshy hearts? But as the outworks, they may control my rebel flesh, and carrying thy name, affright both sin and shame. Only thy grace, which with these elements comes, knoweth the ready way, and hath the privy key, opening the soul's most subtle rooms, while those to spirits refined at door attend, dispatches from their friend. Give me my captive soul, or take my body also thither. Another lift like this will make them both to be together. Before that sin turned flesh to stone, and all our lump to leaven, a fervent sigh might well have blown our innocent earth to heaven. For sure, when Adam did not know to sin, or sin to smother, he might to heaven from paradise go, as from one room to another. Thou hast restored us to this ease by this thy heavenly blood, which I can go to, when I please, and leave the earth to their food. End of The Holy Communion. This recording is in the public domain.
Antiphon, Version 1, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King. The heavens are not too high, his praise may thither fly. The earth is not too low, his praises there may grow. Let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King. The church with psalms must shout, no door can keep them out. But above all the heart must bear the longest part. Let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King. End of Antiphon, version 1. This recording is in the public domain. Love, version 1, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Immortal love, author of this great frame, sprung from that beauty which can never fade, how hath man parcelled out thy glorious name, and thrown it on that dust which thou hast made! While mortal love doth all the title gain, which, siding with invention, they together bear all the sway, possessing heart and brain, thy workmanship, and give thee share in neither. Wit fancies beauty, beauty raiseth wit. The world is theirs, the two play out the game, thou standing by. And though thy glorious name wrought our deliverance from the infernal pit, who sings thy praise? Only a scarf or glove doth warm our hands, and make them right of love. End of Love, version 1. This recording is in the public domain. Love, version 2. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Immortal heat, O let thy greater flame attract the lesser to it, lest those fires which shall consume the world first make it tame, and kindle in our hearts such true desires as may consume our lusts, and make thee way. Then shall our hearts pant thee, then shall our brain all her invention on thine altar lay, and there in hymns send back thy fire again. Our eyes shall see thee, which before saw dust, dust blown by wit, till that they both were blind. Thou shalt recover all thy goods in kind, who wert diseased by usurping lust. All knees shall bow to thee, all wits shall rise, and praise him who did make and mend our eyes. End of Love, version 2. This recording is in the public domain. The Temper, version 1, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. How should I praise thee, Lord? How should my rhymes gladly engrave thy love in steel, if what my soul doth feel sometimes my soul might ever feel? Although there were some 40 heavens or more, sometimes I peer above them all. Sometimes I hardly reach a score, sometimes to hell I fall. O rack me not to such a vast extent, those distances belong to thee. The world's too little for thy tent, a grave too big for me. Wilt thou meet arms with man, that thou dost stretch a crumb of dust from heaven to hell? Will great God measure with a wretch? Shall he thy stature spell? O let me, when thy roof my soul hath hid, O let me roost and nestle there. Then of a sinner thou art rid, and I of hope and fear. Yet take thy way, for sure thy way is best. Stretch or contract me, thy poor debtor, this is but tuning of my breast, to make the music better. Whether I fly with angels, fall with dust, thy hands made both, and I am there. Thy power and love, my love and trust, make one place everywhere. End of The Temper, version 1. This recording is in the public domain. The Temper, version 2, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. It cannot be. Where is that mighty joy which just now took up all my heart? Lord, if thou must needs use thy dart, save that and me, or sin for both destroy. The grosser world stands to thy word and art, but thy diviner world of grace thou dost suddenly raise and race, and every day a new creator art. O fix thy chair of grace, that all my powers may also fix their reverence, for when thou dost depart from hence, they grow unruly, and sit in thy bowers. Scatter or bind them all to bend to thee, though elements change, and heaven move, let not thy higher court remove, but keep a standing majesty in me. End of The Temper, version 2. This recording is in the public domain. Jordan, version 1, read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Who says that fictions only and false hair become a verse? Is there in truth no beauty? Is all good structure a winding stair? May no lines pass except they do their duty not to a true but painted chair? Is it no verse except enchanted groves and sudden arbours shadow coarse-spun lines? Must purling streams refresh a lover's loves? Must all be veiled while he that reads divines, catching the sense at two removes? Shepherds are honest people. Let them sing. Riddle who list for me and pull for prime. I envy no man's nightingale or spring, nor let them punish me with loss of rhyme, who plainly say, my God, my King. End of Jordan, version 1. This recording is in the public domain. Employment, version 1, by George Herbert, read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. If, as a flower doth spread and die, thou wouldst extend to me some good, before I were by frost's extremity nipped in the bud, the sweetness and the praise were thine, but the extension and the room, which in thy garland I should fill, were mine, at thy great doom. For as thou dost impart thy grace, the greater shall our glory be. The measure of our joys is in this place, the stuff with thee. Let me not languish then, and spend a life as barren to thy praise as is the dust, to which that life doth tend, but with delays. All things are busy, only I neither bring honey with the bees, nor flowers to make that, nor the husbandry to water these. I am no link of the great chain, but all my company is the weed. Lord, place me in thy consort, give one strain to my poor reed. End of Employment, version 1. This recording is in the public domain. The Holy Scriptures, by George Herbert, read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Part 1. O book, infinite sweetness, let my heart suck every letter, and a honey gain, precious for any grief in any part, to clear the breast, to mollify all pain. Thou art all health, health thriving till it make a full eternity. Thou art a mass of strange delights, where we may wish and take. Ladies, look here. This is the thankful glass that mends the looker's eyes. This is the well that washes what it shows. Who can endear thy praise too much? Thou art heaven's ledger here, working against the states of death and hell. Thou art joy's handsel. Heaven lies flat in thee, subject to every mounter's bended knee. Part 2. Oh, that I knew how all thy lights combine, and the configurations of their glory, seeing not only how each verse doth shine, but all the consolations of the story. This verse marks that, and both do make a motion unto a third, that 10 leaves off doth lie. Then as dispersed herbs do watch a potion, these 3 make up some Christian's destiny. Such are thy secrets, which my life makes good, and comments on thee, for in everything thy words do find me out, and parallels bring, and in another make me understood. Stars are poor books, and oftentimes do miss this book of stars' lights to eternal bliss. End of the Holy Scriptures. This recording is in the public domain. Whitsunday, by George Herbert, read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Listen, sweet dove, unto my song, and spread thy golden wings in me, hatching my tender heart so long, till it get wing, and fly away with thee. Where is that fire which once descended upon thy apostles? Thou didst then keep open house, richly attended, feasting all comers by 12 chosen men. Such glorious gifts thou didst bestow, that the earth did like a heaven appear. The stars were coming down to know if they might mend their wages, and serve here. The sun, which once did shine alone, hung down his head, and wished for night, when he beheld 12 suns for one going about the world, and giving light. But since those pipes of gold, which brought that cordial water to our ground, were cut and martyred by the fault of those who did themselves through their side wound, thou shuttest the door, and keepest within, scarce a good joy creeps through the chink,
and if the braves of conquering sin did not excite thee, we should wholly sink. Lord, though we change, thou art the same sweet God of love and light. Restore this day, for thy great name, unto his ancient and miraculous right. End of Whitsunday. This recording is in the public domain.
Love, Version 3, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Love bade me welcome, yet my soul drew back, guilty of dust and sin. But quick-eyed love, observing me grow slack from my first entrance in, drew nearer to me, sweetly questioning if I lacked anything. A guest, I answered, worthy to be here. Love said, you shall be he. I, the unkind, ungrateful? Ah, my dear, I cannot look on thee. Love took my hand, and smiling did reply, who made the eyes but I? Truth, Lord, but I have marred them. Let my shame go where it doth deserve. And know you not, says Love, who bore the blame? My dear, then I will serve. You must sit down, says Love, and taste my meat. So I did sit and eat. End of Love, Version 3. This recording is in the public domain. Doomsday, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Come away, make no delay. Summon all the dust to rise, till it stir and rub the eyes, while this member jogs the other, each one whispering, Live you, brother? Come away, make this the day. Dust, alas, no music feels but thy trumpet, as peculiar notes and strains cure tarantula's raging pains. Come away, oh make no stay. Let the graves make their confession, lest at length they plead possession. Flesh's stubbornness may have read that lesson to the grave. Come away, thy flock doth stray. Some to winds their body lend, and in them may drown a friend. Some in noisome vapours grow to a plague and public woe. Come away, help our decay. Man is out of order hurled, parcelled out to all the world. Lord, thy broken consort raise, and the music shall be praise. End of Doomsday. This recording is in the public domain. Judgement, by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirsten Ferreri. Almighty Judge, how shall poor wretches brook thy dreadful look, able a heart of iron to appall, when thou shalt call for every man's peculiar book? What others mean to do, I know not well. Yet I hear tell that some will turn thee to some leaves therein so void of sin that they in merit shall excel. But I resolve, when thou shalt call for mine, that to decline, and thrust a testament into thy hand. Let that be scanned. There thou shalt find my faults are thine. End of Judgement. This recording is in the public domain.